Is always one of our fastest drivers, and Hildebrandt's driving a Duntov-prepared Corvette. As we look at this red Cobra, John McCormick, another man from Nashville. He is a veterinarian by trade, and he and his wife love coming to these vintage races. We're so happy to have them here. Beautiful car. And then there he is, Jim Farley, in that beautiful Cobra. I love that car.
Yeah, that is nice. Now, how new is that Cobra? Because that looks pretty modern.
It's an old Cobra with Cobra Automotive. They just really take good care of their cars, and Jim, being who he is, I'm sure he wants his cars to look really, really good and presentable.
Yeah, no kidding.
He's also driving a Lola with a Cosworth engine in it with us this weekend. And he's a great guy, really good racer, but just super enthusiastic, dynamic person. So glad to have him here as this George Del Canto coming up over that bridge, getting light, coming into a treacherous turn 12 following John McCormick.
Well, if you've just joined us on YouTube or Facebook or any other platforms, or you've been watching all day on the app, we welcome you to SVRA's coverage. I'm Jonathan Green, and alongside me, Ben Sissel. We're bringing you the action from what will be the finale, sadly not going to Laguna Seca because of the COVID pandemic. And so this will be our last hurrah, but it's the perfect conditions and the perfect circuit in many ways. It's been racing here since 1970, and a lot of these cars back in the day have had their time here at Road Atlanta. So it's an iconic circuit, as all the circuits that SVRA go to, and we're delighted to be here, and we just lucked out on the weather. It's absolutely gorgeous. Mid-70s here. It's almost like a summer's day.
Ladies and gentlemen, Michael Zock, who won a national championship with us in Group 10, is watching on Facebook. Tell us, in this group, Jonathan, what's your favorite car in this group? And leave a comment on what's your favorite car in this group.
You know what? That red Corvette. Not the 05, the Mark Hildebrand.
Andrew Uzurowski in the Zotz Racing 217 Porsche 911. I like the Porsches, but being a British car guy, I have to lean towards the Cobras in this group. That was basically a British car with an American engine. I still can't get the irony of you being a British car guy and me being an American car guy. I can't work on that. Yeah, the accents are flip-flopped, right?
I know.
Yeah, and that's Scott Berkland there, our last year's Group 8 champion in the 06 Porsche 911. He is at almost a race weekend with us. He's also one of our race instructors with Kenneth Manella, who's watching from home. As we watch the battle, looks like George Del Canto took John McCormick, and there's Jim Farley sliding it through 12 like he should, coming up in that beautiful Cobra. We might have a Cobra battle here.
A double snake in the S's, so to speak.
Well, if you're new to vintage racing, the beauty of vintage racing is...
we took a wide line there, sorry.
It's kind of pack racing. So,
yeah.
You know, there's the group fighting for first overall, but then there's groups like this. And some of the best racing in the field is what our cameras are picking up on right now as George gets a little squirrely there. But just throughout the pack, there's beautiful racing, great cars, and there's John McCormick, and I'm sure his wife is out there watching and cheering him on. I love it when the husbands and wives really get into racing together.
Yeah, it makes the weekends a little bit easier, right?
Yeah, and look at this, a 1966 Cobra in the American colors, a hard top to make it a little bit more aerodynamic. I don't know if it gets any prettier than that as Jim locks up his right rear tire, and that's Hugh Booker in that modern Ford Mustang that I think he said it ran in the Continental Series or SCCA.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think he said Group 2. He's a really nice guy. I met him at Turn 10 today. We are selling tickets to the Atlanta Speed Tour. You see a lot of campers. We love Road Atlanta, and we could not have asked for better weather than this weekend. I mean, didn't expect it, but thank you.
For the RV coverage here, what a day out for, you know, people wanting to stretch their legs, socially distance, and get the family out and enjoy it. What a great day. There's the Alfa Romeo. I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, that's Mark Brummins. So he was with us in the Trans Am race in a BMW and SGT. As there's Hugh Booker in the 81. That's a pretty car.
Yeah, it is.
Jerry Robinson trying to make sure he gets his points so he can win the championship.
Now, how does a Lexus fit into all this?
You know, we get a lot of questions about that, and that's kind of why we started this Group 12. Rick Parent, our chief of tech, we wanted to allow cars that were not quite vintage. You know, there's probably modern amenities in that. There's a computer system and things like that, but it's a race car, and we want them to give a place to race, and you know, why not? And he's a great racer. He races with us quite a bit, and so that's a 2004 Lexus. Our rules are, I think it has to be, I can't remember now, I should know this, if it's 5 or 7 years old, and then these newer cars, you know, you don't really want to go buy a Lexus and prepare it. You want to buy an obsolete from a race series. It's a lot easier and cheaper.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, we'll have Rick up here later. If you want to get into vintage racing, call the chief of techs. There's Rick Ortman right there, which he did. He came through our school and prepared this car to our specs. He was our Group 12 champion last year. And he's actually an old Trans Am racer from the early 70s.
Ah, right.
And he's back at it. I love it. So that's Scott Borchetta right there in the 05. And I got to tell you a story about Scott. We were talking last night. There is not a person in our paddock, Trans Am, Radical, SVRA, I don't think there's a person in a paddock across the world, period, that is more excited about racing than that man, that has put more effort and time and energy into racing. Ray Evernham, NASCAR Hall of Famer, is going to be up here joining us in the commentator booth later. It's his fault. He got Scott into this racing, and now Scott is fully addicted, and it's like talking to a 14-year-old.
Oh, no question about it.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about, you know, the heads of Ford. Well, Big Machine Vodka and Big Machine Records is pretty darn big company too, and he is throwing a lot of time and energy into sponsoring events, including the Nashville event.
Yeah, the Music City Grand Prix. He's all over the place. You know, I live in Nashville, so does he. He is a huge part of country music. If you have a favorite country music artist, chances are Scott has had something to do with their career. As we watch John Nash in that Lotus 7 really sliding that car around using his hands.
He does look like the old man out, though, doesn't he, in this group?
He does, yeah, especially being followed by a Falcon. And there's that Dove Gray Alfa Romeo that was with us at Circuit of the Americas. But look at this Falcon here. I love the paint scheme. Look at the body roll on that. It looks like so much fun to drive. It's Bradley Steele, currently 14th, third in 6 TA. So in this group, you know, there's 3 different groups racing, and then in that, there's different classes.
Now, what's chasing him? Because it's the Alpha, yeah.
So that's one of the cars we were talking about. Mayor Primo, B Sedan Alpha, and that Dove Gray. He was with us at Circuit of the Americas, and I remember us commenting on how pretty that car was.
Yeah, exactly.
So again, if you're just joining us, welcome. Welcome to Vintage Racing. Welcome to the last event of our calendar in 2020 at Michelin Raceway Road, Atlanta. Join us on our social media channels. Tell us what you want to see, what you want to hear, if you have any questions or comments, or if we get something wrong. I know that the trolls are ready to pounce and correct us, and we love the trolls. So tell us what you want to hear.
Yeah, there's about 150 of them buried in that gravel trap, I think.
Yeah, we've dug a lot of people out of there, including our 6-time today, Ernie Francis Jr. There's a shot of our car show. And if you like movies, we have the movie cars from Smokey and the Bandit.
That's cool.
Out there. And here comes Scott Borchetta coming up on lap traffic, he's got this handedly won, so he's going to let these guys race in front of him and wait for his time to pass safely. Lindstrom, I think, is currently in 2nd place overall, but he's leading in his Group 12.
Nice sounding car, too.
Yeah, he's owned that car for quite a while, he said, and just loves racing it. He was with us at Circuit of the Americas just 2 weeks ago, and here he is at Michelin Raceway Road, Atlanta.
Well, he just clocked at 138.5 in that last lap, but he's already clocked at 136.7, which is pretty handy. And Borchetta are about to get into some real traffic, and he's about to catch another Corvette. This one of Mark Hildebrand. Currently 3rd overall and 2nd in Group 6. Hildebrand leading this group through. It's amazing how different the Corvettes look with different colors, isn't it?
Yep. I love that Cougar, though. A vinyl top Cougar out here racing. That's some style right there.
I know. The more I look at this racing, the more sort of, and I don't mean it wrongly, but the more ordinary cars, the more sort of production ordinary cars I'm more taken by, actually, to see them racing, like the Cougar. Because it's not shaped like a racing car, is it?
No, it's a brick, but I love it.
It's a brick.
So we had a question where, what time is Group 2, and I pulled out the schedule from Circuit of the Americas.
Well, so it's been a while back then. That's
well,
good.
Maybe that means I haven't washed my pants in 2 weeks.
Ouch! And then that's why we are socially distancing.
Yes.
From 3 rooms
that's
apart.
Just smart. Look at these
Group
great
2
shots
you want
right
to know,
here.
right?
And look at this. You don't see this very often. There were a ton of these cars back in the day. Ron Fuller, 1977 Datsun 200 SX. But back in the SCCA days, this was basically kind of like a class of spec Miatas. You could kind of buy these cheap, inexpensive, I don't want to say cheap, but more inexpensive Japanese cars and race them really hard. And they created a bunch of different classes that made for some really good momentum racers. So when is Group 2?
Ben, who was your question from?
Our Group 2 question was from, actually, Garth Vinson answered it. So see, even the people on our social media are answering the questions. I love it. Thank you, Garth.
2:25 Eastern is the answer. Time running out, though, in this group race,
slow.
Group
There's
6.
Scott Borchetta getting by. Oh, that's just getting by Ron Fuller. Yes, I think a big block Corvette with a 427 should get by a Datsun 200 SX. That handedly, but look at that. If that isn't just the picture of late 70s, early 80s.
Yeah. So we're probably about a lap away from the end of this race. And it's been quite a spectacle, as you can imagine. Car number 26 just going through our shot here. A little further down. And that is Rick Ortman in the Corvette.
And I love that beautiful Shelby GT350 of Stephen Coleman right there, racing with Dennis Althoff. Look at that. That's a treacherous turn. And as you're coming around, because it's a downhill into a braking zone, and then so your car compresses, so you get a little bit more grip than you think because all the weights come down. So you can take that turn a little bit harder, but man, if you get it wrong, you're in the grass and possibly into a long concrete wall.
So Scott Borchetta heading towards another checkered flag. He's been the champion of Group 6 for many a year and has now turned his hand quite handily to TA2, and he'll be up in action later today in the big boy stuff. So looking forward to that. Scott Borchetta with a massive lead here in SVRA, but the TA2 is a whole different ballgame because then he's up against professional, honed and veteran race drivers from all over America. And when he got on his podium, you said he was a 14-year-old or he acts like one. He was tickle pink to be up there with the big boys. So he could do it in vintage and now he can do it in the real deal. So it's a great way to start your career, actually, is to go vintage racing, learn the ways of a simpler car, and then maybe take it up a notch.
And I got to say, Scott Borchetta, as he gets the last lap signal, is doing more to just support racing. With his companies, he's sponsoring all kinds of different events, Big Machine Records, Big Machine Vodka.
Big Machine hand sanitizer, which he
sanitizer.
provided for everybody here.
If you are a supporter of racing, make sure that you're going to his concerts, buying his records, drinking his vodka, and using his hand sanitizer.
It's an all-in-one. It's a one-stop shop.
Racing. Yeah. He and his brother.
He also,
there's At Spa. Before Spa, yeah.
Unbelievable.
And I like the Johnny Lightning. He's big friends with the Unsers, so he's got the little homage to Johnny Lightning on that Corvette.
Well, he sent me a picture of his go-kart, the first one he ever drove in, and he even had that Johnny Lightning sticker on there as well. So, closing lap, final lap here in our Group 6, Group 8, Group 12, and it's all been about Scott Borchetta, who's led by a country mile throughout this. But no big surprise, he did the same at COTA just a couple of weeks ago. Jeff Lindstrom will follow him home in 2nd place, and Mark Hildebrand actually got through to 3rd place by the end of it all. Gary Moore settling for 4th, and John McCormick in 5th.
And look for Scott Borchetta racing in TA2 at 4 o'clock today with us at Road Atlanta as he comes down 12, Jonathan.
And takes the checkered flag. Borchetta wins here at Road Atlanta.
It's a pretty car, Scott. I like that. He has a great crew. Dylan does a great job of crew chief with those guys. They put together some really cool cars. Another hit, Bill Elliott's car is going to be out there with.
That's right.
With Scott's driver Jade Buford, who
now
he
that's
sponsors
a bit of history
in the
this weekend, isn't it? A Bill Elliott car
in Georgia.
You know, I was talking to people the other week when Chase won the NASCAR Cup Series. Everybody talks about, you know, the Earnhardts and the Yarboroughs and the, you know, the sort of famous names, Petty obviously, but Bill Elliott is not forgotten, but now his boy is doing the business.
Yeah, and Bill, it's odd not to see Bill here this weekend. He's usually here racing one of his race cars from Dawsonville, Georgia. Talking
to Bill Elliott, Bill Elliott was a two-time winner in '88 of NASCAR, because when I say a two-time winner, there is the most popular driver of the year and the Cup champion. And in '88 it was Bill Elliott, and in 2020 it was Chase Elliott.
Yep. I am a Chase Elliott fan.
Yeah, he's a good guy, isn't he?
I really like his dad, and his dad is here in the vintage races with us, a legend. You know, if there was a Mount Rushmore of NASCAR, it'd be hard to argue that Bill Elliott off of that.
Shouldn't be on it, yeah.
You know, and so it's just really fun. It's a great finish on our Group 6, 8, and 12 races. If you're just joining us, leave us a comment. But I did just hear that Cottrell, who was in our Miata race, is third-generation racer.
Oh.
His grandpa, who is now in his 80s, raced. His dad raced, and now he's racing.
That's great. Well, we've got plenty more coming up from Road Atlanta, and it's starting to fill up here. This is just the first of 2 days of great racing from Road Atlanta. And we've got 2 championships, well, all the 5 classes of championships on the line in Trans Am. And, of course, SVRA continues to entertain. So, check on the result then. Scott Borchetta of Nashville, Tennessee wins in his Chevrolet Corvette. Jeff Linston in second place. Mark Hildebrand in third. Gary Moore fourth. John McCormick fifth. Then George Del Canto sixth. James Farley seventh. Hugh Booker in 8th position, Ron Pauly, and Mark Drummond. Busy man, Mark Drummond, because he was up in the TA race earlier today. He took his Alfa Romeo to the So we'll take a short break here from Road Atlanta. Plenty more group racing to come from SVRA. And don't forget, later in the day at 4 o'clock local time Eastern, we'll have our big TA2 muscle car Trans Am race. Join us soon.
When the finish line calls, we answer. Hit the road with insurance protection from Hagerty. Whether you drive a built racer, sports car, or exotic, and save an average of $264. Get a quote today at Hagerty.com.
Welcome back to the iconic Road Atlanta. Wonderful place for our grand finale. As we look down, what a nice shot that is. Good stuff, Tony. And we are live from Michelin Raceway as we get ready for the next group. And this will be some fun stuff because we've got some rip-roaring single-seater action coming next. And this will be action from Group 5, 7, 9, and 11. And the cars from the previous group just passing my commentary booth. We're in the booth on the corner of that building you see there. And how about this? Looks like one of Lewis Hamilton's cars, but in fact, it's a Jim Booth car, the powered by Honda car. And this will be fun because in this group, Lewis Cooper Jr., we saw him a moment. He's got the Panners DPO 01. And then Jim Booth, who we also just saw, is in a Ligier JS F3. And again, 2-liter James Farley in a Lola 298. And car number 70, well, that's David Yans in a Arve Riley AR2. And here's, I think this is Danny Sullivan car, I've got a feeling. Number 4 of Gary Gould in the Frisbee GP2. There it is, GB2, excuse me. Pretty little thing that is. Yes, it is the Danny Sullivan car. You can see Danny's name on the side. Danny, a former Formula One and IndyCar star, most remembered, of course, for that spin and win. Never seen anything like it. Spun the car and still won the Indy 500. Absolutely insane. And again, the beauty of SVRA, it's not to worry about who comes first and who comes second. It's to look at the history of motorsport in motion. We could take you to the Barber Museum down the road in Alabama, not far from here, and show you some static cars, and they are wonderful. It's a great display. Or we could take you to Donington and show you a museum there. But why do that when we can race the actual real deal? People like pieces of art. Well, they put them on walls. We race them. That's as simple as it is in SVRA. It is our motto. It is the way we go racing. They are fully insured, but most of them are priceless in many ways because they are the original race cars that raced back in the day when they were born, so to speak. Some of them not as old as others, but it doesn't matter. As you heard from Ben Sissel there, you can have a car that's only a few years old, but it is still a classic in many ways. And Judd Power, how much of Judd played a part in history of racing? So much power produced by the Judd plants. And this, the V10 Judd powered car of Mr. Cooper, Lewis Cooper Jr. He took the pole with a best time of 1:13.8, so he smashed the field. The closest man to him was a 1:25.8, but then again, he does have a V10, 4,200, 4.2 litre engine, so there's no question that it's streets ahead of the chasing group. It's 2007 panels, in fact. And there's the 63A of Jim Booth in the Ligier. That's a good-looking car, isn't it? Got the Petronas colours on. And it's got the new special safety device for modern racing in F2. And F1, and in fact now in all the FIA categories down to F3 and F4. And if you want to see the American versions of that, you'll be able to see the Formula Regional and Formula 4 Americas in action. They too have the halo and they use it, and so all the FIA cars now from Formula 4 up have the halo in action. So here we go. Cars coming out for their group action, their first major action of the weekend. They've had some testing and some practice, but this is their first real run. Not a big field, but it's a really interesting field to watch. I watched them in practice yesterday, and a couple of Swifts out there. There's a Riley, and as we mentioned, the Ligier, the panels, and there's a Lola 298 as well with James Farley at the wheel, so we'll look out for him. And like I said, we're more concentrated on looking at the history of some of the design. Safety car will lead them round, and rolling start as always. And I expect our pole man Lewis Cooper to just drift off into the distance and enjoy his afternoon. Plenty of grip out there today. There's been no wet weather. I was talking to Mike Skeen, who's pole position for the T82 race, and he was saying that you know, the rubber goes down, although there is different kinds of rubber, because of course Trans Am use Pirelli, you've got the Husia tyres, and then various other different permutations out there. So by the end of the weekend, yeah, you'll get a lot of marbles from different kinds of rubber, but generally speaking, it does rubber in as a track. And there's been quite a lot of racing here, actually, in the last few months, given that Petit Le Mans was here. And, of course, there's a busy schedule here. And since its opening in 1970, Vic Elford, if anybody's interested, won the first ever race here. And one of the greats. And here they come down the hill. And they call this turn 9. It's not really a turn, is it? It's just a jink to the right, but it is a turn all the same. And it then leads quite steeply down to turn 10. 10A as it's called. And that's the heavy braking and major overtaking option. There. As they all dive in. And hopefully, we'll see if the safety car comes off, because if he does, we'll be racing in our group 5, 7, 9, and 11. Safety car is in, and so we'll go racing. Here we go! And away they go. Lewis Cooper Jr. leads the field and is off to the races in the number 70. Jim Booth right behind him, and a good start also by the Danny Sullivan number 4 car of Gary Gould in the Frisbee GB2. Up the hill and over the crest they go. And already starting to build on that. Panos flying already. And that makes a beautiful sound down the back straight. And I know Ben's looking forward to this one. A small group, but it's a good group.
Yeah, it is. And I brought my friend Dustin Hodges up here, who works for Silverhair and Trans Am, but also for Cahill. And he is going to be our open wheel and kind of purpose-built race car expert today. So,
Bring
Dustin,
it on.
what are you seeing?
Well, you're putting me on the spot here for that, aren't you? I'm the expert now. Uh-oh, here we go.
You are in this room.
Yeah, I tell you what, I love these cars. I've always been an open wheel guy, sports racers, that kind of thing. And these guys are great with these F3 cars, these F2 cars, that kind of stuff. It's amazing to see them on track, and they do a great job. They're fast. It's fun to watch. I mean, this is one of my favorite things about this SVRA weekends is you get to see all these older cars. It's great.
Well, I just explained that you get to see the history of motor racing. It doesn't matter who wins the race. You get to see history.
Like, how often do you see a Frisbee Can-Am car passing an LMP3 car?
Right, exactly.
That is gorgeous too. I love those old Can-Am cars. It's I saw them first time at Elkhart a few years ago in real life. And it is amazing how loud they are. If anybody hasn't been out to see these cars, you definitely need to get out to the track and check out SVRA weekends, because these things are amazing.
Yeah, you feel them.
Yes,
you hear
you
them,
do.
but you feel them. So the green car, just behind the number 70, that is Jim Farley. We just saw him in that Cobra, but that is the CEO of Ford Motor Company. Just
That's insane, isn't it?
newly named. I watched him on Jim Cramer's Mad Money, and then now here he is racing with us and doing a little R&D in that Lola with the Cosworth engine, and Lola and Cosworth are both in the Ford family. So he is now making his company proud.
He can't go against Mark at this point, can he? Or he'll really be in trouble.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. What engine was in that Lola there? But I guess he's kind of stuck in that one, isn't he?
And it says Ford. It's a Ford Cosworth.
Yep.
And that's Danny Sullivan's Can-Am car. We call it the Frisbee. And then the orange and white car is Dave Handy in the back. So tell us the difference between what we're calling the open wheel and Can-Am and then these like S2000 cars.
Well, they're very similar underneath. If you take the body off an S2000 car or a Can-Am car, it's going to look a little similar. Basically, they're all tube frame cars, open wheel, and the sports racers, but they just kind of put a little bit of fenders over them. Now, they're not fenders like you're going to see, Trans Am, they go beating and banging, but these guys can't really touch wheels much because it's just fiberglass. So it's just kind of streamlines it a little bit. A Formula car, it's funny enough, is actually one of the least aerodynamic cars on the planet because they've got all that stuff hanging out there. These Sports 2s and things like that are definitely really slick. But the same kind of deal. The Sports 2 is very similar to Formula Continentals, and you guys have a few of those running around here as well. Same engine package, that 2-liter motor. And they're really just a fun car. You can throw them around. You really don't have to. They're not too heavy, so you really get to play with them.
And that's Dave Handy right there, who owns Sasco Tires. He provides tires to almost all vintage racers, at least the smart ones. But great racer. And then he's leading the field in S2000. That car's wearing a tuxedo, so I guess this is a black tie affair for that car of Brent Knoll,
Well, it's the
which
finale.
is just
You've got
fantastic.
to dress up for the finale, right?
Yeah, this is a black tie affair. So, what in the world I'm a vintage person. What in the world are these Formula cars that are out front that sound like laser beams when they pass us?
Well, the Jim Booth and it's an F3 car basically, and it will light up the field. Yeah, they are extremely fast. F3 is a training ground for Formula 1. So you have F3, you have F4, F3, F2, F1. So that if you want to look at it like that, you're a step below, kind of like a NASCAR truck equivalent if you want to go to the NASCAR world. So they're extremely quick cars, definitely hard to handle, and you definitely have to know what you're doing to keep them on track.
Interestingly, Jordan Messick was racing earlier. He's been in the Formula Regional Championship, and that is effectively the American equivalent of Formula 3. It is exactly that, with the halo and the modern FIA, and a chance to win super license points. And it's only been around the last couple of years since the halo came in, but it's growing quickly, and I'm really excited for America.
I've been to a few of those events, and they put on a phenomenal show.
Oh, we got a pass right here. Look at this.
Oh, I just said they can't go. You can't beat and bang, and there they go, beating and banging.
Yeah, that's the commentator's curse, right? Whatever we say, they'll do the opposite, and that's gonna put a tear into that tuxedo. I hope that's not an Armani tux.
It's going to have to change up a little bit before the award ceremony, I guess.
Yeah. So that's Brent Knoll. He's in a 1983 Tiga SC83, and he's racing with Steve Conson. And Steve Conson, as an MG guy, has just some of the coolest MGs, but now here he is in a 1985 Swift DB2. But, Dustin, the reason I asked you here is because I've seen you do some commentating and some podium celebrations in your own race series. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I work for a couple different teams and stuff, but one of the things that a lot of people seem to know me for is the Formula 1000 stuff, which is the North American Formula 1000 Championship, 1000cc superbike motors in basically open-wheel Formula cars. So it's a great series. We run on FRP weekends, which I know that's a different series. I guess I'm allowed to say that.
We promote all racing.
So that sounds almost like the way that Radical's gone, which is to take a motorcycle engine and then effectively create a race car.
Very similar.
And how does that go? Where did it come as a concept?
It's over 10 years ago. Some club racing guys that had Formula Continentals decided that they were tired of spending 15, 20, 30 grand on motors, and they found a way to put a bike motor in it and go faster. So they kind of evolved from there. And, it's a very, very similar. The Radicals have the same concept. They have multiple platforms. You can kind of keep going up the game, but we kind of stick with just that bone stock CC motor. But, we have a great time, and we do a lot, like Ben was saying, we do a lot of the podium stuff, and we always do live things across all kinds of social media, just like I do for Silver Hair and Cahill and all these other people, just trying to help promote racing in general.
Yep.
And I've been in love with the sport since I was a little kid.
It's funny, people talk about motorcycle engines and how that would be inferior. And it's like, I've been around motorcycle racing for a long time, and I've seen people do way over 200 miles an hour on a motorcycle. So the power to weight ratio, especially with those engines you're talking about,
here we go.
They're plenty powerful. Go ahead.
The Panos right there is passing Gary Johnson, another Tennessean, right there in the 1986 Shannon Sports 2000. Gary's from Knoxville, Tennessee. And really good racer. He races a little bit of everything. It's one of the first times I've seen him out here in the S2000 class. But he was, I think, with us at Circuit of the Americas. But then that's Lewis Cooper Jr. just making his way through, I think, the field in that 2007 Panos. Am I saying that correctly?
Yes, sir.
And then it's
Ligier, that's good.
See, as a Tennessean American, I'm like, what's a Ligier?
A Ligier.
So
I had to have training on that. I'm from Tennessee as well.
So where is the DRS zones here at Road Atlanta?
Well,
Every time I see a car like that, I'm waiting for the back wing to just flap open.
It would be nice coming out of turn 7, headed towards 10, if DRS and they could jump up about 10 mile an hour. But I don't think we have that technology here in SVRA. We need to lobby for that.
If some of our drivers, and it's not beyond them to buy ex-Formula 1 cars.
No.
We've seen that with some of the Benettons and Jordans racing with us. So now if somebody, this car right here looks like Lewis Hamilton in a way. It's got the same livery as Lewis Hamilton.
Nice word.
Yeah, so
I've taught him the word livery out of
for like
Tennessee.
four broadcasts I was saying livery, like a real American. But here we are. So we just try to have fun up here, Dustin. So tell us about these cars. What's Lewis Hamilton driving today with us at Road Atlanta?
This is quite interesting. I like the paint job on this. I think that's an upgraded paint job because from what I can tell, that car is a few years older than when Lewis was running in F1. So I think that I think that might be a pretty big Lewis Hamilton fan there in that car.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a slick-looking car. Again, that's another one of those F3 cars that is, been running probably – in the European Championship, I would say, with the way the halo and stuff is on that.
Yeah, it looks like an FIA F3 or.
Now, is that the same Jim Booth that's racing with us in Radicals this weekend?
I think it could be.
Well, I got to tell him. I got to tell on him a little bit. So, Nancy Becker who does a lot of catering with us at different vintage races, a big fan of vintage racing, and one of my favorite people in the paddock. I went up to her and said, tell me who your favorite is in this Radical series. And without even hesitating, she's like, Jim Booth. And I'm like, why? And she just said, just true gentleman, great racer. And look, here he is now racing with SVRA and Radicals this weekend, looking like Lewis Hamilton.
And out front like Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny looking at the halo, and for people who don't watch single-seater racing, they'll be looking at that halo going, what on earth is that? Well, it's something that came in after Felipe Massa and obviously Justin
Wilson.
Wilson had an accident. And
I was there.
Yes.
Sad
day. Good friend of mine. And, you know, this is what single-seater racing used to look like, but now both Indy and Formula One have a form of protection, one in a halo, one in the screen or the shield, as they call it, the aero shield. And, you know, talking to the halo guys now in Formula 4 and Formula 3, they don't notice it. It doesn't worry them.
I've heard that too.
And I've got used to it. They say they don't even see it, and when we see the onboard shots, actually, Liberty in Formula One have done a great job of using it as a graphic structure almost.
Well, if you notice, a lot of these Formula cars, you'll see that they put the radio antennas directly, almost right in front of that. So the guys are kind of used to having that little thing right there. You're never really looking straight ahead. Your eyes kind of bend around it, as crazy as that sounds.
Yeah, and I know you have that depth of perception where if you have an obstacle in your way and you don't have, you know, your brain needs to focus not on it, it will blur it out effectively and make you forget it.
I know that when IndyCar was testing, they decided to go with the aero screen because the guys on the ovals, that actually moved into their line of sight.
Correct.
Because they were so banked.
And
so they
the night races,
do the same
lights as well, the glare coming off them. I know, yeah, exactly.
So what kind of engine would this Panos have in it?
I'm not sure originally. Right now, I think it has a Judd engine, which is what a lot of the
V10.
I know
Judd.
the French father and son guys, their F1 cars, they've gone to those Judd engines. Very reliable, very strong package that you can put in. Jude. Yeah.
Now I got to brag on this guy. We call him DJ, and it's funny we call him DJ Jans, but his name is David Jans. And he's a part owner with Tony Pirelli in the Trans Am Series, racing in that 2012 Ave Riley AR2 LMP3 car. And he's another one of those guys in our paddock that's just having the time of his life.
Yeah.
As we're on our final lap.
It's really good to see the people that are invested in the series getting out on the track, and that they kind of get to see both sides of it, as opposed to, you know, people. A lot of time drivers complain that the series doesn't listen to them, and this is good for him. You know, he gets to see what it's like to be behind the wheel and have a better viewpoint.
Yeah,
very true, very true. Indeed.
And it's always good for series owners to be fans of racing and enthusiasts as well. And he's out here just having a blast.
We'll show some enthusiasm for this man, Lewis Cooper Jr., because he's about to take that Panos down the hill for the last time and take the checkered flag here in our group racing for the Group 5, 7, 9, and 11 feature race 1, and does it in style in that Judd engine. Panos, and wins by a country mile. Jim Booth will take second place in the Ligier JS F3 car, and then James Farley, the CEO of Ford, I can't believe I'm saying that, is here and takes a podium in his first outing. How about that?
Just the nicest, most approachable person. And, you know, again, just out here doing some R&D. And that's what SVRA and vintage racing really is. If people ask me what my job is, I always kind of say camp counselor. We're concierge for these men and women drivers that are basically, in my mind, on vacation. So I try to be the camp counselor, and it's my job to make sure that they're having the time of their life. And that's the approach of everybody here on staff. Even the people like Alex and Rick who have to also set rules, they're trying to give the best customer service because they could go anywhere on vacation.
But do they get upset when at night you build a fire and play guitar to them? Or you don't want
I don't do the kumbaya. But, you know, we do
these
trust
guys
falls.
are heads of industry.
We do trust falls at registration just to get them, you know, incorporated. No, I'm kidding.
Give them that corporate feel.
Yeah, but, you know, it's a lot of fun, and that's what we're trying to do. We're just trying to be the Disney of motorsports and selling them an experience and hope that they come back time and time again.
The Disney of motorsports.
That's interesting, isn't it?
See?
I think it's more like the summer camp of racing.
The Camp Kumbaya of motorsports?
So, Lewis Cooper Jr. wins in that Panos DP01 Jim Booth takes second place. James Farley taking a brilliant third place, seeing as he hasn't raced with us before. David Yance takes fourth place. Gary Gould, Dave Handy sixth, Brent Knoll seventh, and Steve Constant in eighth position. Gary Johnson in that Shannon Sports 2009 overall. My thanks, gentlemen.
Dustin, thank you for joining us. And please come up again and lend us some more of your expertise. Thanks again.
Well, I hope I lived up to that.
Yes, you did.
And awesome. Yeah, I got to get back down to work here with Silver Hair. Trans Am's getting ready to roll out here in a little bit.
And
so
best of luck to Mr. Matos.
Enjoy that, and thank you for having me. I'll be back later this weekend.
All right, thank you, sir. Thank you, Dustin. So we'll take a short break. More action coming up from SVRA in a moment. From Road America, stay with us.
Hawk Performance packs 100 years of friction dynamics into every product. Backed by Carlisle Brake and Friction, the world's premier innovator of industrial brake and friction components, Hawk leverages R&D tools and motorsports experience to deliver uncompromising performance on the street. There's no reason to settle for less. Choose pads that are race-proven and street-legal. Find the Hawk Performance brake dealer near you at hawkperformance.com.
I travel a lot. Whether it's a meeting in New York or a car auction in LA, I trust only Passport Transport to deliver my car. With their up-to-the-minute GPS tracking system, I know exactly where my car is at all times. They take the extra step to secure my vehicle's safety, and their pickup and delivery service is truly door-to-door. With Passport Transport, I know my car's in good hands, because they're car guys too. I'm Roger Van Ness, CEO of Kemp Auto Museum, and this is why I'm a Passport Transport customer.
Welcome back to Road Atlanta. I said Road America last time. I can't believe I said that. Road Atlanta, of course. There's no mistaking Road Atlanta, that's for sure. And there's no mistaking the handiwork of Tony Garcia as he leads us through this pre-grid. And there's no mistaking the artwork of those fantastic flags waving in the distance put up by my
But right now we are looking at
an exhaust.
A NASCAR Hall of Famer, Ray Evernham, with J.R. shots, followed by his car. Ray was the crew chief of Bill Elliott when he drove this car in NASCAR.
That truly is historical, isn't it?
That is being driven by Jay Buford, owned by Scott Borchetta. That's Benoit Bergeron right there, our last year's Maranello Cup winner in our International GT. He came all the way from Canada. You see the Canadian flag back there that he brought me to hang up there. And he's racing two cars. So this is his SVRA Spec Group 10 car, the red Ferrari. His yellow Ferrari is racing with us in IGT. That's Harry Hinkle. Jeff Hinkle, we saw him in the TA race. He is in that Dodge Challenger 2013. Beautiful car right there. His son is racing. Now he's racing in that Dodge Challenger. They're with Breathless Racing in the Trans Am field. As Tony brings us shots of Bruce Raymond, last year's Group 10 winner. Bruce Raymond is actually the person responsible for bringing us Ken Twaits.
Everybody loves Ray.
Yeah, everybody loves Raymond, right?
Yep.
But so Bruce, thank you so much as they roll out. Beautiful shots. Look at those pretty flags at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. Want to congratulate them. We're up there on this tower. Actually, Jonathan, wave out the window. Open it around. We will go through the field. Ray Evernham, NASCAR Hall of Famer, 2011 Chevrolet Corvette, followed by Jay Buford in Ray Evernham's crew chief for 2003 Dodge NASCAR Cup car. It was piloted by Bill Elliott. Benoit Bergeron in a 2014 Ferrari 458. Harry Hinkle in a 2013 Dodge Challenger. Bruce Raymond, 2014 Ford Mustang Coupe. Colin Cohen, 2009 Ferrari 458 Challenge car. Dave Ricci in a 2014 Chevrolet Camaro. Scott Lovett, Ford Taurus. Frank Vitiello, I'm going to get this wrong, sorry Frank. Vitiello in a Porsche Cayman. Yep. John Morrow in an Audi RS3 LMS. Lance Ossick in a Chevrolet Camaro. Randall Castling in a Porsche GT3. Brent Burneth in a Ford Fusion. David Kuchrauri in a Porsche Cayman. George Vidovich in a Python. We call it a Python because they're from Australia, and it's a Cobra that you see right there, that orange car. Dan Malloy in a Chevrolet Monte Carlo, and David Richardson, a Porsche GT3. There's 17 cars in this group. If you're watching on our Facebook, that over 100 are right now, leave a comment. Where are you watching from? Who's your favorite car in this group? If you have any questions or corrections for Jonathan and I, tell us what they are.
Or also, if it's a car that you'd like to see racing in vintage racing here in the United States, I'm sure we could probably find one for you because there's not too many that we've missed in terms of over the year and over the season. We pretty much get a full class of different marks and names and numbers, whether it's all the way back to the mid-30s, all the way through to modern-day cars, still vintage in Miatas. We're about to go racing, though. This is our Group 10, and this should be a cracker. Off comes the pace car, and away we go. Oh, no, we're going to do one more lap, are we?
Uh-oh. Something must have happened. Tom is
slowing them down.
You saw Tom Lemkuhl coming out, slowing them down. This car back here that looks like Smokey and the Bandit, he's racing with Breathless Racing out there. That's a really cool car. That's the 2014 Chevrolet Camaro of Dave Ricci, I believe. There's the McDonald's Ford Taurus. This is a neat, eclectic group of cars. Group 10 is based
Oh,
no.
dear.
That's what it is.
Oh, no.
That is Hinkle, Harry Hinkle,
That's
on
a
the
shame.
outlap. I tell you what, Jeff Hinkle and Harry Hinkle have had some rough luck lately. Jeff Hinkle did kind of similar damage with us in the Trans Am race at VIR, and now here comes Harry, just right there outside of Turn 5, the exit of Turn 5, which once you get back on the gas, see the blue and yellow paint down there, that can get slippery.
You know, that
he slipped out, looks like.
Yeah, I know, but it looks like it must have been a mechanical because that's a straight. I mean, he'd be on the power there.
Well, he probably got on the power, heating up his tires.
You think?
It might have slipped out.
That's an expensive warm-up lap.
Yeah. That stinks. So there goes Ray Evernham, NASCAR Hall of Famer. And he kind of made his mark. Have you ever heard of the racer named Jeff Gordon? Number 24. He's pretty famous. Yeah.
He's a commentator.
So he was, he's a commentator. Yeah, a really good one at that. But he really is known best for being a NASCAR champion several times. Great racer.
Just a bit.
Ray was his crew chief, and Ray wasn't the first, but he kind of innovated using high-powered athletes and using them in pit stops. And he would be out there timing them just like a coach, making sure they got down from 35 seconds to 15 seconds in these NASCAR pit stops, which then everybody had to adopt because all of a sudden they're getting a 5-6 second advantage. And now here's Ray Evernham. He was kind of a master of a lot of innovation and kind of known as this day's modern era of NASCAR's crew chief to really compete with, one of the best.
And he's starting his own series.
He and Tony Stewart are starting their own series, so that's why he's out here racing this GT1 platform, because he hasn't told me yet, and he'll come up here in the commentator's booth. Maybe we can put him on the spot. Exactly what the car is. I think Fury is building the chassis. Great shop out of North Carolina, I believe. But everything I'm seeing, it looks like a TA GT1 kind of looking platform. Looks like it's going to have a lot of horsepower. Ray likes his horsepower.
Well, I know Willie T's involved. So
Willie T. It's a neat thing.
Stewart's involved,
it's kind of like a new play on the IROC series. Legends of motorsports from all. So Mark Webber is going to be out there. Formula One driver is going to be out there with him. Willie T. I think Bill Elliott.
Mark
Webber, yeah. So it's going to be neat. And I've heard rumors that they're even going to do a dirt track. They might race VIR at night. Their schedule looks really cool. So check that out. Go to Ray Evernham's social media channels, and you can find more about that as they bring the cars into pit lane. The reason for that is just because the tow truck is obviously blocking. So if our drone operators are hearing this, this would be a great time to fly on over and give us some good shots of the car show. I really want to see that eastbound and down truck. I got so excited. I loved Smokey and the Bandit as a kid. There is a Bandit lookalike here with us this weekend. There's a Buford T. Justice lookalike. The cars are here, but the truck, the actual truck from the movie that supposedly bootlegged Coors Light from, I think, to Georgia.
But hang on, you got to answer me a question. I saw 2 Smokey Bandit cars when they were doing a parade lap.
There's a lot here, actually. There's also the Back to the Future time machine, the General Lee from Dukes of Hazzard.
Wow, is that the General Lee, really?
Yeah, the police car. Yeah, there we go. That's the car show. So that long semi-truck there is the actual truck from Smokey and the Bandit. The white police car by the blue tent is the police car from the movie Walking Tall. You'll see the Bandit mobile on the other side of the blue tent. There's the General Lee. next to the
Has
white
he got the
car.
horns?
That's no, it doesn't.
It doesn't play the horns?
Oh, it does have the horns. Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah, but
I don't mean horns like cow
horns.
horns.
I don't see the Buford T. Justice Mobile down there right now, but you can see a lot of Bandit cars. There was the Back to the Future, because right now they've done their parade laps. Lots of beautiful trucks over here to the right.
Yes, I saw that bright green truck earlier on the parade lap.
Yeah, there's
really
a Hudson
pretty.
Hornet up there. So let me explain these Speed Tour events. Speed Tour events are the greatest show in road racing.
Okay.
Go to speedtour.net. Oh, there's the Buford T. Justice Mobile right next to the Bandit
General
Mobile.
Lee, I saw him there.
And there's a Jackie Gleason
There's the Back to the
lookalike.
Future.
Look at that.
The
Lots
DeLorean.
of Screaming Eagles. That's a cool shot.
Great drone shots. Wonderful stuff.
We are selling tickets. Spectators can come out. We do ask that everybody wears a mask and they social distance. This is our last race of the year, but next year we plan on doing 9 or 10 Speed Tour ticketed events. The Memorial Day Classic at Lime Rock. We've got a great event at Watkins Glen. We're all over the map, so go to speedtour.net for the schedule, svra.com, go transam.com. But you've got to come out. We're giving you some great visuals here, but you need to stand next to this Ray Evernham car, and you feel it. It rocks the earth beneath you, and they're just really fun machine. So if you've ever wanted to know what it's like,
so he's got the Jeff Gordon number there.
Yeah, he does. He loves Jeff Gordon. That's kind of where he cut his teeth, but he was also a crew chief for lots of legends in the sport. And unfortunately, that's Harry Hinkle.
Now let me ask you this:
Dodge Challenger.
When a vintage car like this gets beaten up like this, how do you go about getting it back to not original, but as close to
that one
as
is an easy one because that's a tube frame TA GT1 platform. Poncho Weaver builds those cars. The body work can be bought from Kerry Hitt of Advanced Composites, and because it's tube frame, if it's bent up and you can't bend it back, you just cut it. You re-weld the same kind of tubing in there, and it's a little bit easier. It's those production cars, like we saw in Jim Farley was racing that 1966.
But does it lose
Cobra.
any of its cachet by being
not a
crashed
car
if
like
it's an
this, not a tube frame, but like that's what I was getting to. So that Cobra was a Le Mans racing Cobra. That's why it has that hard top and that trunk lid. That's irreplaceable.
Right.
If he banged that up, a lot of these guys don't drive those cars as hard just because of the value, the sentimental value, what it means. They're just out here celebrating the cars. It's easy to fix those cars, but then it does lose a little bit of its originality. That's Will Bartholomew going up and telling everybody to start their engines. Looks like they've got the wall repaired. That's Boris Said right there.
Yes, it is.
Standing on the trash can. That's Boris's son with the matching
the
afros.
two Seds.
Look at that. There's a legend of motorsports right there on the trash can, just watching them clean up.
Who said we haven't got every angle covered? We've got the Seds.
But how cool is that? And Boris Said, I love talking to him. He just loves racing. As we look at Scott Borchetta's machine being driven by Jade Buford. And like I was talking about in the last race order of racing, this is his driver in the Bill Elliott car that he has raced in 4 Xfinity Series races, all the road courses this year. He sponsored Jade Buford, and Jade did really well.
That's another thing about Scott we hadn't mentioned is that he's also got a keen eye on the future, especially when it comes to drivers. And he has some criteria. He likes to see professional guys willing to put the work in, and then he might put his backing in to help them. And I admire that because some guys deserve the backing, some guys maybe not as much. And I like to see some discernment when it comes to getting backing. You shouldn't just be asking for money.
So we have a question about this Nashville event. The Nashville, the Music City Grand Prix is happening in August. I think the first week of August. It's a street race through Nashville, over the bridge from Titan Stadium, over the bridge into downtown Nashville, back and forth. And talking to Joseph Newgarden's team, right now, as it stands, they think that the main straight is 500 feet longer than anything they race in IndyCar. And TA2 has been invited as a support race because we have 2 Trans Am drivers, Justin Marks and Scott Borchetta, are owners of this Music City Grand Prix.
Justin Marks is going to be running Daniel Suarez in NASCAR.
Yeah, he owns Daniel Suarez's new team. And they're going to be running that out of Brentwood, Tennessee, real close to Nashville, using Richard Childress Racing's shop.
Do you know what other support classes, if any, there'll be? Obviously, the Indy cars, but will there be Indy Lights, I guess? Or
they've
like
talked
that?
about everything. So I would guess maybe Indy Lights, but I think right now the paddock is wide open. As that is Borchette's car, I believe.
But that's an older version.
No, that's it. I believe it's being piloted by Ken Twaits. I think Ken Twaits is putting some laps in that.
For what reason?
I don't know, because Ken Twaits loves racing.
Because there was okay, that's interesting. Yeah. Here are the sets.
Yeah, so that's Boris's car. I wonder if he's looking at that like, don't hurt my baby. And Borchetta is out there racing. I'm sorry, Ken Twaits, I think, is out there in Pancho Weaver and Borchetta's car just trying it out.
So here we go again. We are back out on track, as you can see. We are back to racing conditions in a moment. We had an incident on the warm-up lap, sadly losing a car into the tyre wall that probably just jumped onto the power too early. But now we're going to jump onto the power at just the right time for the start of this race. And immediately the number 9 of Buford takes the lead ahead of Ray Everingham on the inside in the 24. Buford leads in the 9.
That could be future NASCAR Hall of Famer, overtaking a current NASCAR Hall of Famer.
Yeah, nice story. So everybody cleanly through now. Now this is where the incident occurred in a moment. When they come to the bottom of this hill, this is turn 5.
I hope Bill Elliott is watching this.
Yeah, I hope Bill Elliott is watching this.
He's got to be proud of that. We're so proud, Bill.
Yeah.
Jim, if you guys are watching, Carlos, so proud of Chase Elliott winning the championship.
Chase did a Trans Am race, didn't he?
Bill did a Trans Am race in Mid-Ohio a couple years ago. I'm not sure Chase has. I'm not sure his team would allow that as Ray Everingham takes Jade Buford going into 6th.
No. When he was in Xfinity years ago.
I'm not sure. I don't know. I'll find that out, though.
Okay.
And that's Benoit Bergeron in that red Ferrari. So how often do you see a GT1 car, a stock car, and a Ferrari 458 racing
not very often.
But that's the beauty of vintage racing. As they pull down this long straightaway, but he's going to be able to brake much, much later, as you're seeing right now, and really closing the gap. And then that's Bruce Raymond in that brand new TA2 car from Silverhair, last year's Group 10 champion. And that's a pretty car. I think that was Rafa's car last year.
Yeah, I think that would have been, makes sense. So Everingham has got the better down the back straight of the number 9 of Buford, but they're all slotting through. And it is Ray Everingham from Buford, then Benoit Bergeron in 3rd place, Bruce Raymond in 4th, Dave Ricci in 5th place, Scott Lovett 6th, and Lance Osek in 7th.
That's a great-looking car there. Ernie Francis Sr. and the Breathless team prepares that car, and it does look like a Bandit car.
Sounds great, doesn't it? And what's the McDonald's car? Let me have a look. It's another NASCAR, but
to me that looks like a Bill Elliott car.
Yeah, it does. So we finally underway after a bit of a delay, but we're going strong in our group racing here for SVRA. Our grand finale here for the SVRA 2020 season. Ben Sissel and Jonathan Green bringing you the action across the live stream. And the cars already spreading out now.
Yep. And so right now in our timing and scoring, it's saying Scott Borchetta in 2nd place. It's Scott's car, but it's actually Jade Buford, Scott's NASCAR Xfinity road course driver for his team, is out there just getting some stock car experience.
That's a smart move, actually. Use the historics to actually drive, because they haven't changed that much.
Nothing more valuable than seat time. And look at this GT3 Cup car coming up on the inside there. It's a good move if he can hold it. That's David Richardson in that 2007 Porsche GT3 Cup car. He's racing with us in International GT this weekend. But also there in the Liqui Moly, it looks like your, what is that? Motul sponsored Porsche, the 06. And that's Lance Ossock.
What I love about all of these cars in these group is the sound. So much good noise coming out of these cars. I miss it in some of the modern day cars today, but not in Trans Am, which is why we're here. So goes to number 1. That's Michael Chiaramonti in the Porsche GT3 that we saw for the number 1.
Yeah, he actually had a pretty bad off yesterday in the International GT race, and I spoke to him because he safely pulled off the track, which we asked him to do, and got a chance to speak to him. He was not real happy about that.
Yeah, there he is. That distinctive Porsche sound of the 911, it really is. If I had to identify one racing sound, it would be an accelerating 911. Easy.
Yeah.
Too easy.
And this is a neat track too, because you know, in this different class racing, there's parts of this track that high horsepower really give you an advantage, but equally other parts that right in this part that we're watching here. This is where handling, the Porsches have the advantage over those stock cars and Trans Am cars.
Oh, no doubt about it. I was talking about it yesterday. That's what has made the 911 so successful, has been the ability to have horsepower down the straights and the nimble handling, which it does have and has had, I mean, since the 70s, or even earlier.
And if you're seeing all these cars with Mission on them and you're hungry for Mexican food because they make the best chips and tortilla chips, Juan Gonzalez is a big sponsor of this series, the International GT that these cars race in, and he's here racing with us this weekend. And the cool thing about Juan Gonzalez, great racer, but he is actually the largest cornmeal manufacturer in the world and has over 170 factories in all different countries all over the place.
What I love about Ben is if it comes to food, your knowledge of historical cars is brilliant, but your knowledge of food is hysterical, never mind historical.
And I do actually every night that I've been here. So last night was my 4th night in a row of eating at the same Mexican restaurant. I love Mexican food. And Juan Gonzalez, I think about him every Tuesday because every Tuesday we have Taco Tuesday at my house with my kids, and we pull out the Mission chips and the Mission tortilla chips.
There you go. Now, we're running out of time in this one because we've got, 3 minutes on the clock, just over, so they should get another lap in, and then I think we'll be down to last lap time or even checkered flag line. In fact, I'm watching the checkered flag man actually unfurling the checkered flag, so I don't think it's going to be long before this one's over. And Ray Everingham with a 3.8-second lead now over Buford. As we take a look at the number 90. And the checkered flag is out, so that was Brent Bermath in the 90. Here he is, coming down towards the checkered flag himself as we finish this one and try to stay on time. There it is. And always good to see these guys in action, and just the mere sound of it, even in this bulletproof glass tower I'm in, it still sounds pretty darn good.
Yeah. I can't wait for us to talk to Ray Everingham because I've been following him. He's been racing with us here as a race car driver. You know, we've all followed his NASCAR career, but as a race car driver, a road racer, he just made it up in his mind he really wants to become a fast road racer. And he's put a ton of time and effort into it, and he is really getting fast.
So that concludes our group racing from the Group 10. One of our more exciting, perhaps, as Ken Thwaites, it looks like, brings that Boris Said car home.
I'd like to see the smile on his face.
Yeah. 850
horsepower. Audi to that's got to be a difference. But Ken, you know, being a big American muscle car fan himself, I'm sure he can handle it. There's the Python.
Yeah,
and we call it as he's giving the oi to the corner worker there. But that's the Australian Cobra, the Python. And we want to thank all of our corner workers putting in this time. And if you want the best seat in the house at any road racing, volunteer at your local club and become a corner worker.
Here we go then. This is the official result of Group 10. Ray Everingham The absolute legend wins in Chevrolet Corvette. Benoit Bouguerin takes second place, and it's Jay Buford in third. Bruce Raymond in fourth. Scott Lovett in fifth place. Richard Richardson, Dave Ritchie, Michael Charamonte in eighth position. Lance Ozek in ninth, and Randall Kasling in 10th position. So that concludes our Group 10 Race 1. We're going to take a short break here from Road Atlanta, and we're really looking forward to some more action from Trans Am coming very, very soon. Stay with us. We'll take a short break, and we'll be right back.
When the road calls, we answer. Hit the road with insurance that protects your classic for what it's actually worth and save an average of $264. Get a quote today at Haggerty.com.
There's a challenging spirit within Honda. It gives us the courage to go faster and the thinking to make it real. Whether it looks like a truck, a sedan, or an SUV, inside is the heart of a race car.
Welcome back to Road Atlanta, and we are putting some rubber down today, no question about it, as we turn now to our Group 1, 2, 3, and 4. And these are some beautiful open-wheel cars. Doesn't get any much better than this. We've had a real combination of vintage cars today, and here are some really nice late 60s and early 70s cars, including Brabhams, Crossleys, Merlins, Lotuses, the odd Austin Healey, and there's even a Chevrolet Corvair out there. How nice is that? And they are on the pre-grid. You can see there is not a lot of sophistication to these cars compared to some of the cars we've been looking at, and that's why it makes it a little bit more exciting to race, I would have thought, and also requires a little bit more skill. Daniel Becker, there he is. Daniel Becker in Crossley 32F. There you see 2F. 2F Racing. And as you can see, looking from above, there they are on that pre-grid. So all the SVRA cars are prepared and looked after in the top half of your screen, and Trans Am all on the bottom half of your screen. So it gives a nice little delineation and allowed everybody to just kind of just sort themselves out and be within their own paddocks, which is nicely done. It's a nice appointment here. And here's the number 63. Randall Green in a Lotus 23. He's got his finger up. Whether he wants to ask a question or just wants to let everybody know he's got his engine started. Classic Lotus colors, the green and yellow. And I bet Lotus never expected to see so many of their cars here in the United States some 30, 40 years after they were born. And the pace car is leading them out now, and we're about to get underway. Most of the engine sizes here, 1600, 1498, some 1275. Cooper there, just under 1,000 cc, and that's a 65 T7. But like I said, what I enjoy about watching the different groups is to see this sort of evolution of motor racing as it progressed through the years. We've just seen that Panos in action, and we just saw that Formula 3 in action, and in many ways you could look at these cars as being the rudiments of where those cars came from in many, many ways. We had a real thrill a couple of weeks ago when Jeff Brabham and his son Matt actually raced against each other in Brabhams. So that was fun. And they did race too. They raced hard, very hard, and put on a great spectacle at the Circuit of the Americas. And it was somewhat apropos to see those classic cars racing on the most modern of American circuits. And they put on a great show. Ben Sissel cannot be denied. He's everywhere around the building, around the track, and he told me that he's not going to miss this because this is one of his
This
favorites.
is the only group that matters. Sorry if that's offensive to everybody. That's not the views and opinions I just expressed were not necessarily the views and opinions
Views
of
and
SVRA,
opinions of Tony
SpeedTour,
Barella, and
Trans Am,
SVRA,
any subsidiaries. It's just my personal opinion.
True. You like this Bug-Eye Sprite, don't you?
I love
Kermit.
it, yeah. I call that one Booger. The one
Booger.
in front of it is Kermit, the Frog-Eye Sprite. He is last year's Group 1 champion. I believe he's going to be this year's Group 1 champion. But Andy McLean, who should be in this group, has been faster than Scott. They have equally prepared 1958 Austin Healey Bug-Eye Sprites. Have you gone through the list?
He is the faster of the two, Austin High. No, I haven't been through each and every one. I just mentioned the smorgasbord of different cars, from the Brabhams to the Lotus and so on and so forth.
And this is a crazy group. There's just nothing that we could have done. We don't like to mix production cars with open-wheel cars. There's some visibility issues and just also durability issues.
Yeah.
That, if a open-wheel car hits production car, it could be bad, but it's all we could do. So if you're wondering what's happening, we don't normally like to do this, but there are some really cool cars in here. And one of my favorites in the open wheel class, but I'm not seeing him, is Tom Freilich. Oh, there he is. He's coming in right there, number 10, the black car. He's a Formula 4 driver. I've got a good story about him later as we see Booger, and here they come to take the green, Jonathan.
Yep, this is our Group 1, 2, 3, and 4. Open wheelers and a few extras heading for the start of their race, their first feature race of the weekend of 2. And away they go. Green flag waves. And a good start from Robert Bowden in the number 40, right at the center of your
Look at
picture.
that
On the
Lotus
inside
coming
comes the Lotus. Ooh, nicely done.
Randall Green in that 1963 Lotus 23B. Now expect that Formula B to get back up to him, but he just had a really good run down the hill, used his momentum, and took the lead. Let's see if anybody uses the curbs here.
And the ever-present John Nash is in this one too, in his Lotus Super 7.
Yeah.
He gets some mileage in that
And
thing.
if you keep thinking, why is his car in two different groups? It's not. He has very similarly prepared cars, both prepared for that group. And this is a different group, 1, 2, 3, 4. If they're in open wheel, they're Group 2. And usually the Lotus is actually Group 5. So that should be a...
And by the way, if this is all meaningless to you in terms of explaining the groups, we can explain them, but you can also go to the SVRA website at any time and look at the groups and how they're specified and what counts as a group car and what you need in terms of displacement and in terms of preparation. And it's actually a good read because if you are into these kinds of cars, then you can understand how the groups are made. And it's no mean feat. I'm quite impressed how you put the groups together.
Yeah, it looks like we had a change for lead, and now the Lotus 23 is using its momentum to get back. But for a while, Robert Bowden had the lead in his number 40A Alpha. 1969 Brabham BT29. I'm in the process right now of editing what I think is the best vintage race I've ever seen, which were the Formula B race at Circuit of the Americas 2 weekends ago, where we had two Brabhams driving Brabhams.
I know, I just explained that.
And Tonis Casimets. It was unbelievable. And we're going to put that up on our social media here soon. And then you see this number 10 there, that Formula 4. That is Tom Freilich. This is going to take a while, but it's worth it.
We'll stay on it.
Tom met me by coming up to me and saying, hey, do you do the videos for SVRA? And I said, yeah. And he goes, well, you need to do more open-wheel cars. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. Tell me more about that. Let me learn about that. And so he talked. We've been friends ever since. Great guy. I try my best, Tom, to include. I love the livery on this, and Marilyn, his wife, actually came up with that font for the 10 and the color scheme.
It's nice.
But he is a builder in Key West. He's just done a 4 or 6 month trip around the country in his RV doing trout fishing, fly fishing. He's a builder in Key West, a post and beam builder.
Well, who's doing the building then?
He is also a champion sandcastle constructor, 2012, 2013. World champion sandcastle, and I talked to him about that.
This man has too
and he
much
would
time
actually
on his
say
hands.
sand sculptor. He would correct me. I'm not a sandcastle. I'm a sand sculptor because he can make anything. But there's a champion in our race car drivers and in sandcastles.
So you're telling me he's a builder in Florida, but he just doesn't build very strong.
No, he builds
buildings.
post and beam.
They're made of sand.
Really custom houses. It's really neat. He's shown me some pictures. but he's also a Sandcastle champion. Tom Freilich and that beautiful number 10. And his wife Marilyn is here with us. She's a school teacher, former school teacher, and she's having the time of her life as well. Look at this battle. Formula Fords going into 10A. Tom Freilich overtaken right there, but he is a really good driver, Tom Freilich. So expect him to be back out front in that group.
And the group 1, 2, 3, and 4, led by Randall Green, Robert Bowden, and in fact, Mitchell Hibbs going over into third place ahead of Tom Freilich, and we just saw that action going on. Gregory Hibbs in fifth place, John Nash in sixth in another Lotus Super 7, but as you explained, a different Lotus Super 7.
This is a fun race right here with these open wheels. Even though this is a small group, this is close racing, and there's some different classes here. Even in these cars, even though they look the same and they're different styles of Formula Ford, but you've got Formula Ford, you've got Club Ford, you've got Formula B. So there's a lot happening right now.
And if you just go to the settings on your TV and change it to black and white, and I change my voice to this, you can say it's 1969, and here they go, up the hill here at Road Atlanta. Absolutely splendid. What a sight. As they come down to our cameraman Tom at turn 6, what a sight to see.
I'm going to do that. I'm going to take that piece right there and make it black and white for our social media. It's like watching those old, Pathé videos?
Yes, that's exactly what the impression was. I'm glad you got the reference.
I love it. You're going to have to do that from now on. That's Daniel Becker there in the 71, 1977 Crossley 32F.
And the time, like you say, you get here on a Tuesday, the time they put into these cars is amazing. I mean, they get enough time on track, they get good time on track, but given the amount of time that they fettle and love these cars, it's almost a worry when you see a car like we did earlier going into the barriers. It's heartbreaking, isn't it?
And we were talking about Tom Freilich. He was actually here last weekend racing with another great vintage organization called VDCA. And in fact, the first laps I've ever gotten to the racetrack were here at Michelin Raceway, Road Atlanta. The VDCA chief steward at the time, Bud Merrill, a legend, took me around track in his car and showed me and tried to teach me everything he knew. I tried my best to keep up with him, but I learned so much in those 2 laps.
You know, we've got a great battle here between Randall Green and Robert Bowden. There's only half a second between them at the front, so we take a look at John Nash again. Currently 7th overall, but first in his group, I may add.
And Lorna, his wife, told me that they had family in
to
Israel
a lot of the wives.
watching. Yeah, I do. She's one of my favorites in the paddock. And because, we're with them for, let's say, 15 weekends a year, we become really close. It's just a traveling circus. John and his wife, Lorna, are with us, 15 weekends a year.
Yeah, it's
so
a lot
we
of time.
become really close. But she said that her family was watching in Israel. So if you're watching, thank you so much for joining us. Tell us where you're watching from. Leave comments on our social media and who you're rooting for. And you can look up Tom Freilich Sandcastles on Google, and you will definitely be impressed.
Okay.
Sand sculpture, sorry. There's Andy McLean.
Here they come.
Still beating Scott Frazier. Both of them were running for Group 1 championship, but then COVID got in the way of Andrew McLean. If you were watching us at VIR, I was talking about him faking that he was Scottish because he didn't bring me a Scottish flag to hang up in our Hall of Heritage. Well, now I said that he has the accent because he watched Shrek. Well, now I have to go back on that because he brought me a Scottish flag.
There you go.
Scottish form. It's way too big. And that was his little jab back to me.
Yep.
And so I hung it up, and we're flying the Scottish flag for you. Andy McLean being battled by his good friend Scott Frazier. And look at the smile on those cars having the time of their lives.
Yeah, they look a lot of fun to race, don't they?
Yes. I will do that someday. So that's Kermit, the Frog Eye Sprite, following Andy McLean. Andy's son also races a Bug Eye Sprite with us.
There's going to be an overtake between these two.
Could be.
Here we go.
Scott is from Atlanta. Andy is currently living in Boston. They have the same mechanic, and these 2 cars are set up exactly the same. So this little class we're watching here, this class within a class, is all about drivers. Scott Frazier is expecting his first child here in a few months. So it's really fun to see him out here racing. He won a national championship with us just 2 weeks ago. He's our champion in Group 1 last year, but Andy's showing him how to get around Road Atlanta currently.
And these are tiny cars, but they are shifting. The power-to-weight ratio is good.
Yeah, fun to watch. They're sliding around a little bit. They just keep smiling, and they're coming up on their friend John Nash right now. I mean, look at them. I want to animate eyeballs in there because they look like they're having so much fun. Look at this car. I hope we get a side shot of this because he's got this downdraft that's a side draft carburetor going into this car. Leo Basile in a 1965 Cooper T75. You see that stack up there?
Yeah,
that's a carburetor just going straight down into the engine. It's really neat. And that's the other thing about coming to these events. Leo would love to show you and talk to you about the mechanicals. You can explore and walk through the open paddocks, and if you talk to the drivers, they will be absolutely thrilled. Take selfies with them, get their autographs, and I tell you what, they all have great stories.
And if you've got a little boy or a little girl, they're quite happy to sit you in the seat and get a thrill for doing that. And it's not often, hey, you can go outside the supermarket and sit in one of those playthings, but hey, sitting in the real things, that's a lot more fun.
The car that I'm missing, I haven't seen today, is Mike Levine. He's driving, I think it's a 1963 Corvair.
Yeah, I don't think it's out there. I haven't seen it.
But it's one of the most beautiful Corvairs I've ever seen, and he's out here racing. And, man, the fight between Scott Frazier and Andy McLean just keeps getting thicker and thicker.
Looking high above the road Atlanta forests, the hills of Brazelton, Georgia. And it's been this way for quite a few decades now. This circuit has seen some fantastic racing over the years.
Look at this battle. And we've got people right now watching from upstate New York, Syracuse, Alabama, Maine, Michigan. So thanks for joining us. Tell us who you want to see more of as we watch Tom Freilich now is leading that train of Formula Fords at Michelin Raceway Road, Atlanta.
Hey, here they come.
Now that's Scott Frazier's brother. He did our racing school at Roebling Road just this year. Alex Frazier in the 1972 MG Midget. That's actually Rick Frazier's car. But Rick had an injury unrelated to racing, I think, and is still not feeling well. So his son Alex is like, I'll take it, Dad. But they're from here in Atlanta. They have a construction company. They used to race enduro motorcycles. It's talking to Scott's wife. She's so happy that her husband's racing in race cars because she's like, well, he used to race enduro motorcycles.
Yeah, she's
and that's much
happier.
more dangerous. So to her, this is like a pillow fight.
Yeah, exactly.
I
love that shot coming over the hill there.
I do too, yeah. And
Nice.
so I call that car it is probably the most reliable British car MG Midget that we have, and this beautiful Datsun right here.
Talking of reliable.
Yeah, exactly. Driven by Thomas Phelan, 1967 Datsun SRL 311. Those are fun. Fair ladies, they called them, Datsun 2000s.
What year would that be?
67.
Nice.
13A.
You can see it's almost got an MG back, hasn't it? It's almost like
there's books about, they basically said, we're going to steal British styling, European sports car styling, and just make it reliable, and they did.
It's interesting. It took the Japanese a while to actually get into learning, if you like, design styling. But now they've done it. They put out some beautiful cars.
Yeah, one of my favorites, because I still like the little British-looking sports cars. We were talking about it today, is that.
Yeah.
And then the new Miatas. I just think those are so pretty.
Yeah, they are pretty.
There hasn't been a series of Miata that I haven't liked. And that's coming from a 6'3", 250-pound man.
So, Group 1, 2, 3, and 4. This is their first feature race. They get to do it again. What do they do overnight, Ben, between races? I mean, is there much to do? Or
yeah, they party. So
with the cars themselves. Obviously, I know they're out there barbecuing and
some
everything
oil
else,
changes. They do checkups. But
what goes
racing,
wrong? What's the biggest thing that goes wrong with the cars?
British car, usually you're checking the oil to look for what we call glitter, which is metal shavings. That's never a good sign. You're checking for overheating. You're just checking, make sure everything's tight, all the seals are good, all the safety equipment. But really, nobody is super upset. Like Mike Levine, we don't see him right now, but he's still here because it's also just a big part. They have a good time, and they have, we have people camping out. They go to the restaurants, and they all tell lies about how fast they are. That's a beautiful Formula B right there, the number 40 of Robert Bowden. 1969 Brabham BT29. I think that's, of open wheel cars, these Formula Bs are by far my favorite.
Yeah, I love the design. When I first started following racing, I used to have, my mum used to put us meal, like plate plate settings, those open top Brabhams like that and Coopers, and that's where I first saw them, and I thought those were great.
That was your fine china?
No, those were table mats. But that was when we had, you know, posh dinner.
Yes. Okay, yellow flag out, local yellow, and that is, I like to see that the cameraman pointed at it. That's awesome. So that's turn 7. Can't see a number yet as Andy McLean and Scott Frazier go by. So he's off in a safe area there. So,
but he's not got damage. It's just a mechanical of some sort. You can see he's just put his hands in the air going,
RC in race control is going to, I think he's going to see that and say he's in a safe place. We're going to probably throw a local yellow. Oh, there go the double yellows. Darn it.
Oh, well.
I was hoping that we would get out.
Well, the good news is that they can drag him. I know where he is. They can drag him. Burst him.
Yep.
Boy. He had to put the anchors on fairly quickly then.
Yeah. So I'll tell you a funny story, because the person that's in our race control right now just got the job about 3 years ago. We call him RC. He changed his name legally to RC. And I totally give him a hard time. His name used to be James Blagojevich. And he changed his name to RC because he always wanted to be race control. And somebody said, always dress for the job that you want. He's RC in race control. But his real name is James Blagojevich.
So if I dress like Sammy Hagar, there's still hope for me.
Yeah, dude, you can't drive 55.
True.
So what happened is a double yellow came out. The caution has come out. We have a safety car. The cars will line up behind the safety car, and we're hoping that James Blagojevich gives us a green flag and we can get back to green racing. And when I say race control, that means there are people up in the tower that are monitoring everything that's happening. All the corner workers around the track are giving reports to James Blagojevich, RC, race control, up in the tower to make sure everything is safe. Our initial principle in racing is safety.
Yeah, absolutely.
But even look, under safety car, those cars are still smiling. They're just so happy to be out there.
So we've got a bit of a delay here, and we've got a car parked between 6 and 7, what you're looking at right now, and where they're coming to. You'll see on the right-hand side of the shot as it pans to the left. Or in fact, if we look down, you can see there's quite an action.
We have a comment from Manley Ford right now that's watching, and one of my favorite shots I've ever gotten. We were at an all-MG race, which of course is the best racing, and Manley Ford got up on 2 wheels in his MG T-Series, and then I had a camera on an MGA right behind him at Groton, which is a crazy racetrack, and then that car got up on 2 wheels. It's really cool. So Manley Ford, thanks for joining us. He said he went to school and used to race here back in 1984 was his race school and has been racing ever since. So welcome to the broadcast. So we're having legends of vintage racing join us today on our broadcast. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, and I can see the checkered flag being readied.
So we're going to finish under yellow checkered.
Yeah.
That's not fun for anybody.
No,
but it's safe.
It's safe, exactly. And you make the good remark. And these engines will get to cool down a bit.
Scott Frazier's not going to be happy because that means Andy McLean came out on top.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
So Shrek beat Kermit, the Frog Eye Sprite. I need to put on the headlights, I need to put those white ping pong ball Kermit eyeballs on there at grid so he can't get out and take them off.
So there's the checkered flag just in front of me, and in a moment you'll see it yourself as they come down the hill. There it is. And unfortunately we finish under safety in our group 1, 2, 3, and 4. My thanks again to Ben Sissel for taking us through some of his favorite cars, without a doubt. I enjoy watching him describe and listening to him describe them too. And come on down to an SVRA event and get amongst it with us, because they are really, truly a walk down memory lane and a chance to see some of the great history of motor racing with your very own eyes. So that concludes it. Robert Bowden takes the win then over Randall Green in second place in the Lotus 23B, but it's the Brabham who beats the Lotus today, and Gregory Hibbs in the Merlin 20A takes third position.
NASCAR or IndyCar or what have you, and through this platform he's been able to do that and get the word out that the vintage and historic racing is alive, well, and thriving, and is a lot of fun, great to watch.
And in a moment we'll have some more action on track, but quite different action, as we go back to the Radicals. Confirmation of the result, though. Robert Bowden takes the victory in the Brabham. Randall Green takes second place. Gregory Hibbs. Then Tom Freilich in fourth position. Daniel Becker in fifth. Andrew McLean in sixth place wins the battle of the Austin Healey's. And Scott Fraser seventh. Alex Fraser eighth. Thomas Phelan in ninth position. And Mitchell Hibbs rounds out the top 10 in that Merlin MK11A. So that's the group results. We've got some great radical action coming up next, so stay with us. And if you're wondering, yes, the TA2 Championship is also coming up very soon. Stay with us. We'll take a short break.
I'm Willie T. Ricks. Meet my friend Brian Cook, a wealth advisor, who's one of us, a winner.
Both racing and finance are unpredictable. You want a pro team guiding you.
Brian and his team work hard to keep you winning in life, not just financially. Get to your goal faster and enjoy the drive more. Schedule a free conversation with Brian at Cook Wealth Management, SVRA's official wealth management company.
And join Brian and me in the winner circle.
Why am I excited to drive?
It won't be a burden on my family to drive me to my extracurriculars, including swimming, show choir, voice lessons, youth group, and leadership programs.
It's places I need to be, like sports, so my parents don't have to drive me, and so I can have a social life.
I'm excited to drive so I can go from 2 horsepower to 100.
I could say because of freedom, but I'm more excited for what I will be driving. A 1972 Datsun 240Z.
I'm excited to drive because I'm going to save the manual, like this one.
Hey man, you can't drive that thing yet. You don't have a license.
I am excited to drive because it'll be a monumental step to a life of independence. And who knows, maybe my dad will let me drive his Fairlane.
Beats walking.
You got that anyway?
Welcome back as we take a look down the grid, the pre-grid, that is, for the live action of the Radical Cup North America, to be precise, as we look at John Field and the rest of the field, as Alex Papadopoulos, the winner of the last race. And joining me once again in commentary, Tom Drewer, the regional manager of the Radical Sports Cars, and the perfect man to sit and talk about these great cars as we look at Mr. Olsen, who had a great race last time out. But what news afoot have we learned between races?
Well, the big news is in the 1500 class championship. We have a new points leader. So Greg Gorski has leapfrogged over Indy Al Miller. Of course, Miller involved in that incident with Mel Johnson in race 1. He did receive a post-race drive-through penalty applied to the results, so that dropped him down the order. It doesn't affect his starting position for this race because the grid is set by fastest lap times, but it has put a big dent in his championship points. So Greg Gorski now leading that class championship by 3 points. It's really, really close.
Yeah, and this is it, right? I mean, this is the last hurrah.
Well, that's it, and Steve Jenks has also capitalized. So the top 3 in that class now only separated by 7 points. The other thing it's done is into light the outright championship, because I have a feeling still whoever wins that Pro 1500 class will end up winning the outright championship. But Terry Olsen's got his eyes on that one, and actually if we see more of this sort of melee and chaos sort of unfold in the Pro 1500s, Terry Olsen might get lucky enough to take 2 championships away at the end of this weekend.
Well, that would be wild, wouldn't it? Definitely, no question about it. Now, we started talking about what Radicals were all about, and I had no idea until this weekend that this there are almost 2,000 of these cars racing around the world. It's been in existence for what, over 20 years now, but that's quite some feat.
It is, and in fact, there's, from what I can work out, around about 600 or 700 of those, believe it or not, are in North America.
Wow.
So an amazing amount. Radical is really the preeminent car at country club racetracks around North America. And, you know, a lot of these drivers started their racing careers at those clubs. And in fact, a number of guys from Spring Mountain here this weekend, but also a lot of different clubs represented. So Autobahn from Chicago, Atlanta Motorsport Park. We've just had a huge influx of Radical racing cars into Arizona as well. Already about 30 down there at Apex. So it's exciting to see.
Oh, no doubt about it. And I think the beauty of these cars is that they go very fast. They're lightweight. They've got a powerful Hayabusa engine in most cases, and they're very lightweight, and so the power to weight ratio is such that you really do get a fast car, but for a very good cost-effective price and a good entry point, because they are forgiving. So you do get guys who've never raced before coming into Radical racing and learning their craft, and basically the mantra is that, you know, if you can race a Radical well, then really it's your doorway to racing pretty much anything else.
Absolutely, and we've seen that with some of the young kids come through, the likes of Jordan Missig, of course, who won race one. He really learned his craft in Radicals, applied that this year to Formula Regional, or F3 for our international viewers. And so absolutely, these cars, because they are a mixture of high downforce, yet they still have a lot of mechanical grip, it really is the perfect sports car, if you will, because from a Radical, you're definitely learning all the right techniques, whether that's to take that into GT3 or GT2-esque machinery. Of course, the other way, all of the upper echelons of prototype racing as well.
Now, the cars are made in Peterborough, I think, in England, and are they, is there a road-going version?
Well, there is. So we actually don't sell a road-going version here in North America, although I must admit there's quite a few RXCs that seem to have tags on the back of them, which is pretty cool. So that's like the big closed cockpit car that you see Conrad Park in this weekend. There he is, on cue through the middle of the screen. And the safety car just starting its second lap. So race director Todd Snyder just choosing to do 2 laps just to make sure everyone's got plenty of good.
Well, we've got and I found
across North you. Missing, so that's for the lead of the 1500 class, and that's for championship points. Al Miller now needs to find his way back in front of Greg Gorski, and at the moment there's quite a few positions between the pair. So Al Miller needs to make amends for race 1. He's doing it on screen. Let's see, I think that's one of the local cars. It is. I think that's the 44 of Ping. Yeah, Jeff Ping going through the screen, so he's different body colours on the on his car.
Yeah, we've had a few contacts now and again and a few turnarounds, but they're still out there battling. And here they come again. Oh, that's a change of lead, and John Field goes through.
Well, look at it, they're all going through.
Well,
so
Papadopoulos has got a problem for sure.
Absolutely, Papadopoulos, something has gone amiss in that older SR8. The brand new one, so on